Give us some perspective on your experience.
Right. Yeah. Well, like I said, the call kind of came to action. And
Mm.
a lot of people started campaigns to get donations because we're all in the midst of figuring out, like, okay, what do we do? Send money. You know, those that couldn't be here. That was the best way. Obviously, prayers and love went as well too. But I felt strong enough to actually ask my friends to send the money to me to be able to build a team. And actually, it essentially allowed me to go into St. Vincent without an organization or
Mm.
anything, any kind of overarching body, which
Mm.
was quite freeing because it allowed me to and really get to see where that money could be spent if my friends
Mm.
trusted me to do it. They trusted that my mindset would be able to get there. And just piggybacking off of the last conversation, the psychological part of this is where I started to really to focus on. In the beginning, I called it the ignorant versus awakening phase. The ignorant phase was essentially going, okay, let's send this to a shelter. Oh, we got a list of shelters. Okay, cool. Send. And then a few days later, because I was still in the Grenadines, a few days later, finding out that, like my father quoted it nicely, he said, you start out thinking about human need and then you end up dealing with human greed or seeing human greed.
Mm.
And that for me, again, prompted another, like, we need to think about the mental stability here.
Mm.
I got some money coming this way. I'm not just going to throw it at anything that I think is right to give to, because a lot of people are doing that right now. So there are a few
Mm.
people that just kind of need to take a breath with the rest of the country and see how it's going. And that gave us the opportunity to focus on different shelters, like one in particular. In the beginning, I had donations that helped me go around and bring gifts. I had an apartment burned down years ago. And, that's probably the trauma. Or I know that that's the trauma that gave me the drive to do this part, was when we got to the apartment, the Red Cross had came and to meet us
Mm.
and gave us a little bag of, essentials like toothbrush, toothpaste, underwear, like, some, like, thinking of some slippers or something like that too, or shoes. And, I just remembered that, because everything that, I mean, when I say my apartment burned down, like everything, what wasn't burnt was ash ridden and wet from the firefighters. And
Mm.
to have that little bag and to think about that message that it gave me was something that fueled me to do even more to give back to St. Vincent. So we got word searches and underwear, hand sanitizers that are kind of cute for the kids, just little things, and put, positive messages with them to help nurture the goal of what we were figuring out we were on, the path that we were figuring out we were on. Forgive me. And then we went to one shelter in particular that we'd gone to a few times. And we really realized that, it's just a church. It's just the hall of a church. About, just under 30 people staying there. And clothes and everything were put into pews and mattresses piled up. They all slept in one area. And then they were changing behind chalkboards and, putting up mats so that there was more privacy. And all I could think was, if I was in this position and I have no idea what's really going on, I'm dealing with a power greater than me and it has displaced me, I would need at least some sense of order or at least privacy to deal with the mental impact of this, because that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with a country where a few generations are dealing with some wounds that they're going to have to learn to heal. And the continuation of, so we helped them build a changing room and some storage so that, instead of picking up a sheet and looking around for your noodles, it's there on a shelf. Just
Yeah.
so you walk in, you wake up, and you just feel a little bit more like dignified. That's like the dignity, restoration of dignity.
You know,
And that's how we're moving along.
I think it's so interesting that you've I mean, you know, you are somebody who engages with people on a large scale very well, obviously, or as, you know, what you're telling me is that what you've done, these efforts have happened. These are like, I guess, essentially a private effort. You know, you haven't like reached out to the government. You've kind of basically, what's the word? You've basically jumped over the bureaucracy. You know what
Well,
I
I think
mean?
what we all realize is that you don't actually need to deal with the bureaucracy. Like, you know, we know it as
Yeah.
people in the world, we kind of know that. But then when you're faced with something like this, where, you know, the government was not in the best position to help. I think they weren't really prepared. The organization that we have here was they had to play catch up a lot, and I'm just gonna stay diplomatic with that. And so everyone was like, "Nah, man, I ain't looking for them. Like, let's do this. Let's just deal with this. You got something? You have a piece of wood? Okay, I have a nail. Who have a hammer?" Like, that's how it went. And I mean, yes, you could, in some ways it's a personal mission, because I do feel as though it was me working on, you know, through my purpose was working through me. But because of that, it wasn't just me, it was, you know, the light that was being reflected from everybody around. You know, I was just a channel throughout a different team. You know, it was just about finding the avenue. Some were focused on getting food, some were focused on getting mattresses, like everybody, you know, wonderful. Vinci, tick, 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 tick for the Citizens Brigade, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody really worked together.
I think you're a little, and this is my perspective just based on what you're saying, but it seems like you are a lot more aware and a lot more sensitive to, you know, you noted the psychological effects of the people. And you're right there with the people.
Yeah. Well, in a way that I hadn't, I kind of, like I said, didn't really grow up here much, but I know of, you know, I have a family that deals in politics, so I know of tidbits, you know, but for me, I try and, you know, I grew up a little bit removed, but Vinci's in my blood, you know, so instead of falling into just the shadow of my parents, this allowed me to just, maybe it was that, you know, maybe I was like, I'm not going to fall under anybody's shadow. I'm going to trust my journey and the people that found me along that journey, and they're going to come with me, and we're going to do what we can to help stabilize, not just for now, but for the next 20, 50 years. Poop, poop.
Poop, poop.